My friends, colleagues, and honored guests, 5 years ago today, I proudly and officially began my tenure as your Eastern Region PSEA President. Tonight, as you heard, I begin my final year in that role. 5 years ago, I was a brand new face on the PSEA Board of Directors. As of today, I'm now the longest continuously serving Regional Education Association president on that board. A lot has changed over the past 5 years, but what has remained steadfast is our region's commitment to the mission of promoting the promise of public education. As your president, it has been my goal to work collaboratively with our officers, staff members, and committee volunteers to bring forth to Eastern PSEA a renewed spirit of resolve and a new era of prominence based on the guiding principles that our parliamentarian just shared. To make our members feel welcome, not only to participate, but welcome as well to share ideas about how to improve our association and strengthen our union. And to confirm my core belief that every single member matters, not just because they pay dues, but because of what they do. No matter who we are or where we work, from pre-K through college, every single one of us, whether EA or ESP, active, aspiring, or retired, Democrat, Republican, or independent, is deeply committed to the success of every student. That is why we fight so vigorously for the resources our members need to empower our students to succeed. And that is why we will not, must not, and shall not ever apologize for standing up and speaking out for the well-being of those we serve. Because what we do shapes lives, changes lives, and in the very best of circumstances, even saves lives. We must always proudly and publicly promote this positive message about who we are and what we do. We must define ourselves, lest we allow our opponents to define us. We must build our profession up, lest we allow others to tear it down. And we must speak with one collective voice, the voice afforded to us by belonging to this union, the voice that allows us to fight for better working conditions for our members and better learning conditions for our students, and the voice that will resonate loudly and clearly on Election Day, November 3rd. We must let our voice be heard. When we advocate, when we agitate, when we vote, we are fighting the good fight. PSEA is the only union throughout this Commonwealth that has members living in practically every single community. And that is why we must recognize and assert our influence and power. As public school employees, never before has so much been asked of us. Never before has so much been expected of us. And yet, never before have we been so encumbered by the seemingly arbitrary and capricious decisions of policymakers, from the federal level to local school boards. Usually at the end of each day, if we know that we've done our jobs vigorously and faithfully, we can rest well each evening. But there is nothing usual about the moment in which we find ourselves. And many of us, including myself, are experiencing sleepless nights because of the uncertainties we face that are beyond our control. We are on the precipice of a perfect storm, imperiled by a triad of evils plaguing our society that once again, it is seemingly up to the unsung heroes who work in our public schools to try to figure out how to deal with and overcome. A pandemic with no cure in sight that has claimed more lives in this nation than the entire populations of Bethlehem, Pottsville, and Reading combined. A battle against the centuries-old sin of systematic and institutional racism, which has blighted and yet defined our nation. And a president of the United States who fails to acknowledge, comprehend, or care about the veracity of either of these situations, and whose cold-hearted responses only exacerbate the voracity of each. A president whose Supreme Court appointees have hindered the ability of our unions to maintain membership. A president who has demanded that schools reopen while suggesting it might not yet be safe enough to stand in line to vote. A president who distorts the truth, divides the country, and despises the values that we stand for. And a president whose Secretary of Education, as you know, has never worked, but who has at every turn unabashedly attempted to dismantle our public school system, including threatening to illegally withhold pandemic relief funding from schools that do not send our members and students into harm's way. My friends and colleagues, it is not just that we cannot afford 4 more years of Donald Trump. Rather, we cannot survive 4 more years of Donald Trump as president of these United States. And if you think it is bad now, a second Trump-DeVos term could very well mean the end of this association as we know it. Everything we hold dear in this profession is at stake on November 3rd. And that is why we must let our voice be heard. Eastern Pennsylvania, all up and down, will play a vital role in the upcoming election, meaning that we have the power to help make Joe Biden the next president of the United States, a man whose wife is a member of our National Association, a man who will restore dignity and respect to the presidency, and a man who has promised to make a public school teacher our next Secretary of Education. The choice for president has never been any clearer. The differences have never been any starker, and the stakes have never been any higher. That is why we must organize, we must mobilize, and we must educate and energize our friends, families, and neighbors to protect, preserve, and promote the promise of public education. Because we, my friends, are the heroes that our students and their families need. And unlike the private schools that Donald Trump and Betsy DeVos love so much, we accept, we welcome, and we include every child of every race and every color, of every background and every religion, of every gender and every identity, and of every socioeconomic status. Every student is our student. And like our members, they are counting on us to fight for them. And despite the myriad of obstacles we face, they are also counting on us to educate them. Whether we do it in a brick and mortar school building, online from a makeshift classroom in our homes, or any combination thereof, the members of this association, despite viruses in the air and chaos in the streets, will do everything possible to meet the needs of every student possible. That is why your region officers spend so much energy advocating for you. We know that if the only time our members think about their union is when they have a problem, then we have a problem. As union leaders, we must always be there for our members and students. And the only way we can truly do that is by remembering and adhering to those guiding principles that drive us. Plus, we must ask ourselves, are we allies in the fight for educational and racial justice? Are we having the conversations necessary to keep our members and students safe? And are we doing everything we can to encourage everybody we can to elect Joe Biden as the next president of the United States? Because as was stated earlier, as long as politicians are involved in education, educators must be involved in politics. And if there was ever any doubt, the past few months have taught us that every single decision that affects our jobs, our schools, and our livelihoods is a political decision made by others. But the ultimate decision, who those others are, must be made by us. All of our discontent over the past 6 months and all of our outrage over the past 4 years will have meant absolutely nothing unless they manifest into a vote for change. That is why now more than ever, we must lead by example. Now more than ever, we must implore everybody we know to vote for public education. Now more than ever, we must demand clear, consistent, and comprehensive safety measures. Now more than ever, we must become activists in the fight for justice. And now more than ever, we must act in solidarity to let our voice be heard. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you these past 5 years and to guide this amazing region for one final year as we continue to proudly, boldly, and unapologetically promote the promise of public education. God bless you, God bless our public schools, and God bless Eastern Region. PSEA. Thank you.